Not a firecracker.
Morning. I'd like to call the Executive Committee June 25th to order. If I can get a roll call, please.
Mr. Lear?
Present.
Mr. Washington?
Present.
Mr. Legess?
Present.
Mr. Olthoff?
Present.
Mr. Hess?
Present.
Mr. Tholen? Mr. Byrne?
Present.
Ms. Weber?
Present.
Mr. Payton?
Present.
Mr. Ritter? Mr. Kinzinger?
Present.
Ms. Haas?
Present.
Mr. Seroy? Mr. Wheeler?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I have no public comment this morning. Moving on to approval of the minutes, May 28th from 2019. A motion to approve, Mr. Burns, second, Mr. Olthoff. Any corrections? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Under legislative, Mr. Lear, do you have anything today?
I have laryngitis, so I think what I'm going to say is if members of the committee or the board want, I have a copy of what the UCCI prepared in terms of a overview of legislation. See Kelly and have her provide copies for you rather than trying to go through all these. I don't know that you'd be able to hear me anyway.
Yeah, sound like Rocco. Forget about it. No, well, I've got that on my desktop too. We can email it, and if somebody needs a paper copy, we'll email first, and if someone wants paper, we'll get it to them. Sound good? That was a nice summary that they put out. UCCI did. It really helped. All right, moving on. Nothing under appointments. Mr. Duval didn't really have a report today, unless somebody has some questions regarding to information services. Nope. Okay. Health Department, Mr. Beavis, not here today. Schools, Mr. Murphy, nothing today. Under VAC, moving right along. Okay, nothing from Karen. Okay. Motion to approve the monthly report for the VAC, Mr. Hess. A second from Mr. Payton. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. County Administrator's Report. Nita Speckman.
Good morning. Really, I don't have a lot. You have the staffing report in front of you. There is a big jump this month from 531 to 539. That's a total of 8 heads. But you should be aware there are 8 summer interns in the mix. So 4 out at Highway, 1 in the Treasurer's office, and 3 in the State's Attorney's office. So when you look at in total, you see ups and downs kind of within departments, but the total 8 heads are summer help, summer interns, temporary positions. So they should drop off towards the end of the summer, around 1st of August or so, if history bodes true. Other than that, there really isn't a lot of changes throughout. Does anybody have any questions? Again, some flip in the circuit clerk. Again, we added 1 person that was to replace sorry. Okay, so anybody have any other questions or concerns about the staffing report? Anything in the trends that strikes you as unusual or different? It's pretty consistent. We do have these, you tend to see it will drop maybe 4 to 6 in a month, and then the next month pick them up as those positions are filled, but there's not a lot of movement other than that. You see the 2 heads in circuit clerk that were approved, and really that's about it. That's year over year a difference.
Mr. Kinzinger.
One quick question. What's the turnover like in these employees? I mean, I'm looking at this. What is the turnover like in employees? Are we under 10% for a year or 20%? Or do you have any idea what turnover is?
I ran it for last year and it was about 10%, which I think it's to me is high.
Oh, really?
I'll tell you what I see. I'm surprised at the number of employees that we hire and then leave within a year. It seems like if we can keep them for 1 to 3 years, they're here for a good long time, but keeping them that first year, first couple years is difficult. You know, it just, some departments are worse than others, but I do see a lot of turnover on low seniority people.
You think that's typical of public or typical of private? I mean, at 10% doesn't sound that high to me, but I'm not a big business either.
Well, to me, it seems high in an entity that's, and maybe I shouldn't say that. I was going to say as stable as county government. I mean, we've had issues with stability here, and I think that's part of, from what I hear and see, that there's kind of not this lack of safety, that, you know, okay, it's stable. I see a lot of jumping for money, especially in, you know, starter positions. They can go somewhere else. I'll say a lot of times what I see in the resignation letters are for another public entity, either state or maybe Will County, where it's a little bigger and the salaries are probably a little higher, and that's what we're seeing. Or maybe to a state entity. We lose clerks to state entities here quite a bit. So
So a summary would be probably money is the major reason they're changing.
right,
Thank you.
it's what I see most often.
Would you say that one of our higher turnover may be corrections, and that's due to, you know, people not knowing what they're getting in for until they are in for it, so to speak?
Right, I
I'm
do
just-
see
yeah.
that. I do see that a lot. The turnover rate in corrections is high. Part of, I mean, number one, you also have to think that there's 135 people out there. And so when you're hiring 5, 6 at a time or whatever, there is kind of that process, I think, where they don't realize. You see a lot out there. I see in terminations is within 3 months. You know, like right away they can tell it's not a good fit.
But it seems that the ones who it is a good fit, they stay for quite a while.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And I will say that I think that it's much more stable now than it was in years past, as far as the feeling of employees on stability. There was a cloud for, Steve, what do you think? 4 or 5 years where people didn't know if that was the day that it was going to be their last? I mean, we actually sent out pink slips to every employee about 4 years ago, you know? So, I mean, I would say the stability thing is greatly improved from my perception, but I guess you'd have to ask the employees that.
And as I talk to employees and department heads, it's really anecdotal. I haven't really kept a survey or account. I do hear that a lot. I mean, the issues with the layoffs from 4 years ago, it really still resonates here, and people still feel it.
As a matter of record, that was the way it was in the real world too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
Good point.
yeah, live there.
Yeah.
So,
Any other questions for Anita about anything related to county administrator?
and I did just want to let you know, we have started doing some work on renewals already for the health insurance. So within a month, we're going to have our preliminary conversations. We had a conversation with the insurance company last week. We're going to wait for another month of results. We've had a couple months of really very high claims rates. The last 2 months, March and April, were really high. We went from, you can remember last fall, we were talking about how great it was. We were in like the 60 to 70% range as a percentage of costs, as a percentage of premiums. We were in March at 140 and April 160%. So yeah, very high. So we're hoping that this tapers off, but don't know. There are about 6 very, very high claims right now, with some serious health issues. So that's really what's driving that increase.
We'll know more. We're actively looking at, we've already gone through the exercise of alternate funding mechanisms, self-insurance, all of that, and it doesn't make sense to change when you're in the midst of a surge is about the best way to put
Right,
it. Right now, you
exactly.
can't change funding on those, even though we are gonna have cash, and could possibly go to self-insurance. It's not the time to do that when you need a predictable model on money. I know this is a finance, but just for this committee's knowledge, that's one of the things that we've been working on intently. And then in years past, we always had special meetings to approve health insurance so we could do the budget. We're avoiding that at all cost. We will not do special meetings. It's not going to be necessary. We'll have the numbers ahead of time. So it's more for tomorrow, but just so you know what's occupying her time right now. There's a lot of that, and putting up with me. So.
No comment on that.
Any other questions? Choir, preacher. Yeah.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Under administrative issues, appointments, reappointments, I have the appointment of Alice Argelin to the Bourbonnais Township Fire Protection District, appointment of Steve Worth to the Kankakee River Valley Forest Preserve Commission, and the reappointment of David Wolf to the Grinnell Drainage District Board. Can I get a motion to combine and approve? Mr. Olthoff, Mr. Byrne with a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under openings, I have one opening on the BM Lewis Drainage District, one opening on the Gar Creek Drainage, one on the Mantino number 3 Drainage, one on Mantino number 9 Drainage, one resident opening on the Housing Authority Board, and one opening on the Kankakee County Ethics Commission. Okay, under new business, a couple of things. So, and Nancy Nicholson is here, and Nancy, did you want to introduce anybody today to the executive committee? Put somebody on the spot? Do you want to join us up here? No? Okay. Okay, all right. All right, we'll do that, and if it comes up, we may start to go through that and I'll have you go to the mic, so.
But no, this is Kara Brown. She's our assistant attorney in civil, so she'll see her. We're gonna, even though I'm kind of the point person for county board, Karen will also be working, so you'll see both of us.
Thank you.
So, see us, say hi.
Okay. It wasn't on the mic. Everybody at home was wondering what just happened. All 6 people watching. And Mr. Washington, I apologize. Yeah, I forgot about George. So a discussion on the Illinois Smoke-Free Act. In your packet, we had brought it up, or I brought it up, and we had a brief discussion about, smoking on county property. It's in one of our union contracts, the health department. They can't smoke on the health department property. They can't smoke in their vehicles if on the property, and if they're going to be taking people in their car, they can't smoke in their car. So that's codified in that collective bargain agreement. But I asked the question, should we look at that for all of our properties? And in the last, really, it's picked up the last couple of weeks. I've been working with Nancy on, what does that mean? What are we allowed to do under the law? There's clear distinctions. The Illinois Smoke-Free, the Smoke-Free Illinois Act, should I say, says certain things in it. There's no examples that we could find where all tobacco has been prohibited by a county in Illinois. There are some municipalities that have a policy, but it doesn't look like that ability even rests with a county government to do that. You can't, county board can't exercise an authority that is not expressly given by the Illinois Counties Code. And so that it's kind of in that area. But there is some things that we did want to bring back to the committee to maybe hopefully achieve the same type of impact and for discussion sake. And that's why there was 2 agenda items on there specifically to look at that. So in your packet, it's on one of the left-hand pages if your layout is the same as mine. It's the policy. Now this is the current policy, correct? This is in the policy and procedure manual. But it does indicate that we are is in accordance with the Smoke-Free Illinois Act effective January 1st, 2008. So that has to do with the 15 feet of entrances, exits, windows, open and ventilation intakes. It applies to the use of electronic cigarettes as well. So that is in our current policy and procedure manual. And, you know, part of the question is do we want that to be part of the county code? And it seems like I've already made a mistake. So, okay.
I just, so that people don't, in case there's questions.
Oh, okay. I'll leave that on just in case. So when we look at the Smoke-Free Illinois Act, you know, and I'm not going to make everybody read every word of it, but we know the 15 feet. That's the major rule. And it's also from entrances, window, ventilation intakes, all of that kind of stuff. So when I asked Nancy about that, they actually went over to the courthouse, and the spot where that's just one example. We have other places. That's just the one that's the most prominent that we tend to discuss and use as an example because most people have been there. That area is not 15 feet because it is 15 feet from the door, but it's not from the windows or the ventilation or all of that kind of stuff. Actually, 15 feet is in the middle of the circle drive. Okay, so we did check that out, and that kind of led to the discussion of, well, you can't stand in the middle of the circle drive, so you have to go on the sidewalk. That's the 15 feet, really, for functional use. Now, if you look at, I don't know which page, it says page 5 of 10 on mine, but under 410 ILCS 82/20, you know, we have the mandate to post signs, and it's fully described in that. No smoking signs, symbol consisting of representation, blah, blah, blah. Public place of employment where smoking is prohibited by this act shall have it posted at every entrance and a conspicuous sign clearly stating that smoking is prohibited. All ashtrays shall be removed from any area where smoking is prohibited. So if you look down at 2 sections down, the designation of other non-smoking areas, as long as it doesn't conflict with this act, any employer, owner, occupant, or other person in control of any public place or place of employment may designate a non-enclosed area of a public place or place of employment, including outdoor areas, as an area where smoking is also prohibited, that such an employer, owner, lessee, or occupant shall conspicuously post signs prohibiting smoking in that manner. So I just wanted to explain kind of what the ground rules are and what Smoke-Free Illinois allows us to do. And then for discussion's sake, we may be able to do some things that are different that still allows the employees to smoke, but in a designated area that we have the authority to establish in conjunction. My recommendation would be with the maintenance director. Mr. Byrne first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a government entity, I don't think it's our role to ban anybody from making choices in life. And if we can figure out a way where an employee who chooses to smoke have a designated area away from the building. Again, no one wants to walk into an entranceway with their smoke, but I don't think it's our job to ban any smoking. If we can designate an area in all our facilities that people that do choose to smoke have a place to go that is appropriate and within the state says, by all means.
Okay. Thank you. So it kind of comes down to, you know, the language that would have to be crafted, if you will, to account for situations like the health department. Unless it's part of a collectively bargained agreement, this applies. And my question to this committee would be, now that we know what we didn't know before, would you want to go down the road of drafting that and allowing the maintenance director and myself to establish these smoking areas on county property as necessary around the county? We don't necessarily, I don't know, Nancy, this doesn't require like any ordinance or anything like that because it's more policy and procedure, correct?
I mean, the thing is Smoke-Free Illinois obviously is a statute, so it's state law. And as you know, if you go around the community or anywhere in the state, you're going to see, you know, compliance with state law of the Illinois Smoke-Free. So we actually as a county don't need to do anything because the law is already in place. We can be a little bit more restrictive through the ordinance if we want. If you want to add as it applies to county buildings, because as the county board you are in charge of the county buildings, if now we want to add that you are going to designate smoking areas that are in compliance, which are at least 15 feet from the, you know, exits, entrances, windows, ventilation system. I mean, it's like a sentence or two I found from other county ordinances.
So in that case, when I put, you know, discussion on the Illinois Smoke-Free Act, does it fit, in your opinion, that we could allow for the adjusting of that policy with the way the agenda is currently written? Or do we have to come back and allow for that sentence to be added via a separate agenda item at another committee meeting?
I believe it would apply with your smoke-free, because when we went smoke-free pursuant to the Illinois Smoke-Free Act, we should have actually gone around at that time and done the signs and does the designation, removed ashtrays from where you don't want smoking, because that is a part of the act.
Okay, okay.
And just to clarify, so the reason we found the most, like, I did find one ordinance, I believe it was Winnebago County, I've looked at a lot of
I think
different
it was
counties.
Winnebago.
I think it was
yeah.
Winnebago. They did try to sneak in, any tobacco use, which would apply to chewing. But it's not necessarily in line with the Smoke-Free Act, because if you read the legislation, the legislators are more concerned with secondhand smoke. So if I choose to smoke, that doesn't mean you should have to breathe it in. So that's kind of, it's more clean air, smoke-free. So that's kind of where when Andy and I had, we had some discussions about it. That's kind of where our thought is as we proceed at this moment, is to deal with kind of what in spirit of what the act is.
Sure.
So we're
sure.
going to try to remove them from places where the general public come in and out of.
Okay. Now, I guess discussion on that point, is this a path that we want to go as an executive committee to recommend to the board that we establish these smoking areas that are at least that 15 feet away? They can be more. They can be where is determined the best place to do that. I don't know, I would look to the maintenance director to establish what's easy to maintain, where we have to put the signs up, because they're not everywhere they should be now around the county. So is there, first time, let me get Mr. Kinzinger.
I like the idea. There were two considerations that in designating these that I'd like you to consider. One of them is visibility to the public and the front entrances, that it become not visible. And secondly, that they are located in a place that if the county developed money or somebody wanted to, they could put a shelter or a two-sided something to get them out of the weather that would be attractive for that particular building.
Sure.
That'd be my two considerations. Otherwise, I think it's a great idea.
Okay. I would, if we construct a shelter, that would have to be under ADA, would it not?
We would have to look into that
Yeah,
if we
okay.
wanted to provide a structure. The other thing to consider is when we designate these spots are not, and the act says, these are not just for the employees, this is for the public as well.
Sure.
Yes.
So when you do designate some spots, keep it in mind with premise liability that we went to on Tuesday, last Tuesday responsibility. If we start inviting and start to think where people can be, we have to take into consideration. So we want to make sure that if we designate smoking spots, especially for the public to be in, that it's not somewhere hidden or somewhere necessarily where things can happen or they would get injured or.
Sure. Near the right of way, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Mr. Byrne?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Should we make a motion to move to the full board designating you and the maintenance supervisor to designate certain areas that are compliant with what goes with the Illinois statute and which will accommodate the public and employees for designated smoking areas?
It sounds like a motion.
Okay. Make a
Is there a
motion.
second to that?
I think you ought to add
Mr.
Under the direction of the state's attorney's office in there, so we're doing everything legal.
Oh, sure.
And are you going to, how do I want to say this, coordinate like with the chief judge at the courthouse or the sheriff at the courthouse? And are we going to come in conflict with now the union contract at the health department? Because that's smoke-free facility.
Right, and
And if you
that
put one there, is there going to be a grievance that,
we would have the authority, in my opinion, to do so, to place things by the policy. But why would we do that? I guess is the question. Why would we kick the hornet's nest over there? So we're not. It doesn't say we are going to do that everywhere. But their collective bargain agreement is already in place.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't see going try to designate something and just inviting a grievance. That really wouldn't make a lot of
We
sense.
don't want to go backwards.
Yeah, we don't want to go backwards there. So, but again, obviously I talked to the sheriff about all of these things. We have mentioned it in the past. He didn't have an issue. They have their own policies set up over there. We'll just make sure that we're all in compliance. And the one thing I think we do really well is communicate. You know, I'm pretty sure that we're along those lines. Yeah. So, but yeah, definitely, Mr. Hess. Any other? Do we have a second?
I seconded.
Oh, Mr. Washington. The third? Yeah. So any other comments? Any questions? You know, it's at the end of all this, maybe we'll bring back like a little narrative that says where things are located. You know, I'm not saying it's going to be tomorrow, but we're gonna have to go out and do signs. You know, we're gonna have to figure out, you know, how do we do the cigarette receptacle so we don't have butts all over the ground and they don't get dumped over and people picking through them, you know, or disappearing. You know, so we have to figure out how to maintain this, if you will, because they will get disappeared if they're not right up next to the building. So, okay, all those, I guess if there's no more questions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for that discussion. Mr. Kinzinger, question?
Again, I'd like to compliment leadership in considering the county employees as well as the public in an issue. I think it was a great idea.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, now the next item is I don't know if everybody realizes, but every Friday I have to recertify the disaster declaration and send it on to the state. So we're scrambling, you know, because we all get busy and we're like, did we do it? Did we not do it? And we have to recertify it and send that down. Now there's a lot of wheels that are in motion because of this. We don't know how it's going to turn out, that disaster declaration for the farmland flooding, if you will. We're still definitely not out of the weeds, no pun intended on that one, because we still got issues getting beans in the ground. It's been raining for what, 5-6 days in a row now? I mean, it's still not there. I think we got half of the corn in, between 30 and 50%, depending on where you're at. So what we're asking is I talked to Chief Gessner about this. We can do an ordinance or a resolution that allows us to just have this all the way through the whole season. So we can stop scrambling every Friday to recertify this disaster declaration. So I think it's in your packet. If anybody has any questions about that, we can run through it. Is there a motion first to approve? Mr. Olthoff, second, Mr. Lear. Happy to answer any questions. Nancy's here, but it's pretty straightforward. It's what we did, when I first signed that declaration. I don't think we have the hour and a half to go into what's going on behind this on the federal level and how the local farm groups, I think it's FSA, they've actually submitted that the declaration and agree with the damage assessments. And so it moves up the ladder to the state. And if the governor says, yes, I agree, then the feds can get involved. So all of that really doesn't happen until like July, August. We're waiting that's when we would have a determination whether there's going to be any assistance that would come from the feds through the state. So something like this has never happened. They've never done this. So a lot of times, again, as I mentioned, they really didn't know how to react to it. We were just going by kicking every door to see if we could find some help for the farmers, and we'll see how that comes out. So we had a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. All right. I think the last item, a couple more. Holidays to be observed by the offices of Kankakee County for calendar year 2020. Chief Judge has certified those. Does everybody have those in their packet? Yeah, I see them here. All right, so that's just a ministerial function. Do I have a motion to accept these? Mr. Legess, second. Mr. Burns, active today.
Breathing.
Yep. Just leave your hand up. No, I'm just kidding. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Sorry. The last item. This is informational. Those that were on the board when we did this, it seems like a lifetime ago. Way back when we had the CVB came to us in all municipalities and said that we want our employees to be on IMRF. I don't know if this committee remembers that request. And the first thing we said, can you even do that? They're not government employees. How could you be on IMRF if you're not a government employee or affiliated with a government, a group of government governments, they get together. Like UCCI is a good example. They're under IMRF, I believe, because it's made up of all governmental entities. So we sent that through the state's attorney's office. We sent that to the attorney general, and I just kind of thought it went to the black hole. This was, oh geez, what, 3 years ago? And it finally came back out the other side, I guess, of the black hole. And we got a response on June 14th. And really the long and the short of it is that they didn't make a decision or a opinion on whether they could be part of IMRF, because that is part of the governing board at IMRF's decision to make. They're the ones who say who can and who can't be part of it. It would be their opinion that if somebody were to be eligible for IMRF under the CVB type situation, their board could only be made up of taxing bodies, of governmental taxing bodies, and it couldn't include people like the hoteliers, and it couldn't include chambers of commerce. And that's obviously part of the makeup of what we have with our CVB. So it would require that a new intergovernmental agreement be drawn up between all the communities and also the CVB to change their bylaws here to just be the municipal governments. And I believe, I'd have to read through here again, I believe the park districts are considered a taxing body. I think they get IMRF too. I'd have to look a little closer. But regardless, I kind of stopped at that point because I'm like, well, that's obviously not what any of us wants. I think that there is an overall sense that, not overall sense, just a stated, intention that the hotels really matter in the discussion of tourism. Their opinion matters as much as anybody's, if not more. And why would you want to cut them out of that for retirement benefits? So I think that this is where it goes. I think this is where it dies, if you will. I don't see that the IGA being redone at this point for various reasons, obvious reasons, but then I also wouldn't say that I would even support it if it was to be that way, because I think the hotels matter. I think that all the different representation on there, whether it's public or private, that's why they're nonprofit. And one of the things that I think needs to be explained, and not a lot of people realize this, if it was a complete governmental entity, I think Rock Island is one where it is all made up of government entities, they're subject to FOIA. So let's just say that if you go and you say, you're another CVB, and you could FOIA them and say, I want to see a list of all of your events that are staying in all your hotels in the area. They'd have to provide basically a target sales list to you of who you can go call on to try to get to your area. That's the big problem with that being subject to FOIA is you're giving away all of your customers. That's why these things are 501c3. So I just wanted to mention that to this committee. It's not in the best interest of a Convention of Visitors Bureau to provide that data. Now, all the other financials, I can see a reason, but who your customers are, who you're dealing with, your vendors, that's one of the reasons I think that I'm no longer a board member. That's why I felt so strongly about that. You can't give that information away because that's what you worked hard to get to come to your area. And somebody could submit a FOIA and just, hey, here you go, CVB from Town X in Illinois, go call on all these people, they got events. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that, why, in my opinion, that's such a big deal and it matters. And we owe that to our hotels to protect that information. Those are their clients. So any questions about any of that? It's kind of long and drawn out, and I put a little tag at the end that was hopefully timely, but that stuff matters to me. So, Ms. Weber.
Did you pass that on, and so the matter's done?
Well, I passed it on to the CVB. Yeah, I let them know, and it's up to them to take that information how they would do, with that. I'm no longer the representative. I would guess they probably don't want to do another intergovernmental agreement right now. Gotcha. I would probably say that that's a pretty, if I was a betting man, and I'm not, they're not going to do that, but
so that would,
yeah, I think it's over at that point. They already have a 401k for their executive director. So that was established already, and good. The other employees there. Good. So, all righty. Well, I think that's it for today. Any other old business, new business? It says Mr. Legess on here. What does that mean? Oh, Mr. Legess. You have a motion and Mr. Hess with a second, and Mr. Olthoff with a third. All those in favor? Those opposed. Have a good day.